Hi friend, glad to see you on my channel. If you like this manhwa, then be sure to put a like and subscribe to the channel. Then I will know that this manhwa interesting and will be more often release on its series. I wish you enjoy the series. The teacher allowed the hero to use his full power. The hero asked the enemy if he would mind if Shu used his superpower. The enemy seemed to mock his ability to throw soybeans, while the hero's eyes were full of confidence in his abilities. Shu asked if any of his classmates had metal balls. He had forgotten his own at home, so he couldn't use them. The students were thrilled that the hero had finally decided to use his intimidating ability. The girl asked her friend if she could lend her necklace, and she agreed and started to remove it from her neck. The girl gave the necklace to her friend, and then the hero's friend gave her 3 pearls, for which Shu thanked her very much. Shu said that in the past, he spared his opponent, but now he decided to put on the full. Shu also realized that the enemy with his inhuman speed with ease dodged his attacks, so the hero had to come up with a way to increase the speed of throwing balls as soon as possible. The enemy also attempted to threaten the hero. The enemy immediately went into a furious attack, and vowed to beat the hero to a pulp. At that time Shu used spiritual forces to create an object that the enemy decided to destroy with his fist. At that time Shu stumbled back, then called for 3 more of these objects and shot them at the enemy. The enemy fought off the spiritual attacks while saying that it was fun. The enemy broke through the gunfire and headed straight for the protagonist. Shu decided to use the force to the maximum. He again summoned 3 items and directed them at his enemy. The enemy seemed a little nervous, but still dodged the first shot, and then dodged the second. The enemy decided to get out of range as soon as possible, because at this rate Shu sooner or later it will hit him. The enemy headed towards the hero, with a clear desire to win. He also decided to win for himself a little space. Then he suddenly jumped, and was in the air. The enemy said that the hero cannot hold it. At that time Shu was out of joy. He pulled out the same balls, then aimed at the enemy, and told about the weakness of speed, namely that in the air the enemy's advantage evaporates. As the enemy realized that everything that had happened up to that point was the hero's plan to get him up in the air, Shu prepared for his crowning shot, then instantly fired 3 pearls that hit the target and the enemy was on the ground. It turned out that Shu had hit him in the balls, causing him to lie on the ground helplessly and cry out in pain. All the students watching the fight felt the pain, but after a moment, they were all very happy that the man from their faculty had won. At that time the teacher ran into the arena and said that the situation had become more complicated. He called for an ambulance saying that the student had a very serious wound and might need an operation. The paramedics arrived on the scene very quickly and the teacher asked how the student was doing. The doctor said that the student was very badly injured and that even surgery would not help in such a bad situation. The doctor asked the teacher how this could happen, and he didn't know what to say. He said that the first thing to do was to take care of the student, but he would write a report later. The ambulance took the arrogant bastard out of the classroom, while Pranishka approached the hero and asked if he had any regrets. Shu explained that the guy got what he deserved, and for such a thing is not to be regretted. The teacher said that although they had an accident, but the lesson was definitely educational. The teacher also said that the first 3 months of freshmen are under the protection of the university, but after severe injuries will be routine for the guys. The teacher also said that their university provides very high-quality medical care. After all this, the teacher said that he would send the guys their homework. At that time all the guys opened their devices, where there was already a huge amount of videos about the upstart from the forbidden faculty being brought down from heaven to earth. Shu sat down on the couch. He was incredibly tired after this battle. The guy recalled a huge number of events that had happened in just a day, and was simply shocked at his luck. Suddenly the hero received a notice, and he immediately opened that would read. It turned out that it was from a roommate. In the list was a huge number of rules for living. Suddenly a guy came into the room, who asked Shu whether he was sitting on the Divnaya. It turned out that it was his roommate, named Luo Miran, who is already in the 3rd year. Shu said hello to his senior. As the protagonist was surprised at how handsome his roommate, he assumed that this guy is an idol of their university. The elder said that since the guy had read the rules, he had to follow them, or they would go and change the main character's room right now. Shu felt as awkward as possible. In his opinion, the older man did not know how to get along with people at all. The elder inquired about Shu's injury, and Shu said that he had injured himself during combat practice. The elder said that the hero looked like he wouldn't survive even a 3-month period of protection. Shu remembered that and had also mentioned this. The elder threw the bottle, saying that Shu should use healing ointments. The hero thanked the guy for such a gift, and he also asked about the 3-month protection period that the elder had mentioned. This seemed to whet the guy's appetite, and he prepared for the story. At the university, there is a lot of competition between students, which is encouraged by the university. For example, the one who can win the competition will be able to get a lot of resources. He said that there is always a list of the top 100 students, among which the first in the list is a dragon, but the first 10 are tigers. For each place in the ranking, a separate reward is given. Shu, as soon as he heard about it, he was delighted with the university, and how much resources the university spends on students. It turns out that the 3-month defense just saves freshmen from the competition, but after 3 months they will be fully open. He also said that it was not uncommon to see especially gifted students who were eager to break the rules of the university, hinting at a hero. The elder also said that students often get seriously injured or die because of the competition. The senior said that the hero had already become a target and that he would have to train hard to survive in 3 months. The doors closed and the boy's neighbor left the room. Shu was shocked by such kindness on the part of the elder. In his opinion, although he had a sharp tongue, but also had a good heart, Shu also remembered the words about being a target, and because of this he became a little sad. He realized that there were at least 2 bastards who wanted to take revenge on him. Shu was glad that these show-offs were videotaped and he could study their strengths and weaknesses in great detail. Shu decided to take a look at the training methods that had previously been passed on to him by his teacher. The hero also very much hoped that there will be methods like kinship with metal, because then he will be able to create metal balls. It was already evening outside, and people were living their lives, while the hero had just left the shower. When he got to the couch, he heard a call, and then picked up the phone. It turned out to be the elder. The senior was furious. It turns out that 72 on the list of top students had posted a post about the hero, and now he was in very serious trouble, and he should definitely talk to this person. Shu started to look at the comments, and there he was being heckled again. Shu read the comments and was just shocked by the posts that people were posting. Shu was out of anger. He decided to immediately call this senior and deal with the fact that he writes about him nonsense. Shu dialed the number and said hello, and Shu got down to business. He said that the post was not complete and could cause a lot of misunderstandings, and then the senior asked if the hero wanted to delete the post. The bastard demanded 500,000 for him to change the post, but after a moment he laughed out loud. It appeared to be a joke. He said that he would never dare to rip off a poor student, but the man also added that there was nothing wrong with his post, and he didn't see any point in changing it. Shu asked the senior if it was right to spread false rumors. The bastard said that the hero mutilating the guy was completely true, and that he was busy. After that, the guy hung up on him. He said out loud his thoughts that young people are incredibly naive nowadays. Shu realized that his opponent is very cunning, because it was not even possible to record his words. The hero thought about what he should do, and one of the options was to complain to him, but with a high probability of this variant will not help. Shu decided to act decisively. He had already thoughtfully asked his enemy not to blame him for being rude. Late in the evening, Shu went to the Department of Discipline. The girl there brought the guy, and asked what he wanted. The hero said that he came to write a complaint. The guy intervened and asked what was going on. Shu told the teacher that someone was using the school's website for blackmail and extortion. The teacher thought about what the protagonist said. He said that the case is very serious, but also apologized, because now he has a meeting. But also the teacher promised to deal with the case later. The deputy ordered the account to be blocked, and they decided to impose further punishment after the meeting. At that time, there was an extraordinary meeting of the Genetic Evolution University. The rector explained the reason for the meeting, which was the hero's fight with that bastard, and the rector asked everyone at the meeting to give their opinions. The vice dean gave his opinion that the hero should definitely be punished because he had behaved too cruelly. The second vice dean gave his opinion, namely that Shu was not guilty because he gave in twice before resorting to the methods they already knew about. They talked about the fact that the main problem was that the student was badly maimed. Although they could not seriously punish the hero, but they could not leave him without punishment. Yang Chen spoke up and said that the main punishment should be given to the hero's opponent. The rector asked the teacher who had witnessed the incident for his opinion, and he admitted that he was also responsible for not following the fight. The rector attacked the poor teacher, saying that it was his fault and that he was responsible for the incident. The teacher was very much distressed by this barrage of facts, and the rector said that teachers should treat every student equally, and never allow such incidents to happen. The rector decided that the teacher would bear the brunt of the responsibility, not the students. The bastard who spoke out first against the hero demanded that Shu be punished as well. The rector said that this was how students should behave. It was better than standing around and being humiliated. and this was the kind of behavior they should be teaching these kids. The rector strongly advocated that the hero was right in the situation, and the decision was made that the teacher would take full responsibility while the students would just talk to him. At that time the teacher arrived in the hall with a folder in his hands. The rector asked if the teacher had finished his report, and he told him that everything was ready. The rector started reading the document. While the other teachers could not understand what was going on, the rector threw the document directly at one person and asked him to read the contents, also saying that he didn't expect to see such a thing at their university. It turns out that the case was about that Sashi, who was popular, and was extorting money from at least 3 students. The rector said that the man was very poorly performing his duties, and at this rate he could simply lose his place. At that time that bastard was overjoyed. It turns out that he thought that his account would be blocked, and he had a plan for that. Suddenly there was a knock on his door. He opened the door, and there was a man in dark clothes waiting for him. It turned out that it was the people who were investigating. They said that the guy would be arrested for extortion. The older man didn't seem to expect that, and shit his pants at the news. Suddenly there was a very loud scream. The guys did not understand why the guy screamed so much, and he began to complain that all his videos were deleted and now he will not be able to earn on it. One of the bastards noticed that there was an internal announcement. The first was that the students would be held responsible for all the extortion videos and that an investigation was underway. The second was that the teacher who allowed the students to commit such beatings would be held responsible. And the third was that the university encouraged rivalry between students. At that time, Shu was practicing sitting on his bed. It seemed that the guy was trying to awaken his gene points, and after a moment he finally succeeded in doing so. Although he was very tired, it turns out that it was the 36th base point, and it was now that the hero was able to open all of his base points. Shu realized that although his spiritual power had not increased to the heavens, but it had also become stronger, which was why he was sure that his spiritual cone had become much stronger. Suddenly, the guy remembered something and jumped out of bed. It turned out that he had decided to test his telepathy. Now his telepathy range was as much as 6 meters, which was larger than his room. He also managed to look further and see the older man's room. He was watching the guy who was practicing right now. Shu started to read the book the elder was training on, and assumed it was some kind of martial art. At that time the elder reacted instantly, then looked angrily at the hero and called him a bastard, after which Shu was thrown out of telepathy, and seemed to be in pain, not realizing what had just happened. The doors to the hero's room opened and the hero didn't know what to do in such a situation. The elder asked if it was a guy. Shu stood up and started a conversation, saying hello to the elder. He apologized and said that he decided to try it out of curiosity. At that time the elder praised the guy for being able to overcome the 4-meter mark in just 30 days. The senior asked the hero to be careful in the future, because if he did not restrain himself, the hero would experience a lot of pain. Shu said that it wouldn't happen again, and asked what genetic ability the elder had. The elder said that his abilities didn't end with gene points. He used the lion's raw martial art, which allowed him to resist telepathy. Shu was surprised to hear this, and the older man realized that the hero was just a newcomer who had not seen much yet. Shu thought about the guy's words, namely about special abilities adjusted to gene points. Shu asked the older man if he could lend him his book. While the older man seemed to think about the hero's request, the elder said that he would lend the hero a book, but he must never come in and peek at the elder's room again. Shu received a lot of textbooks, and then began to read them. Passed hour after hour, which the hero spent on reading all this literature. Even on the street Shu did not stop reading and absorbing the information of these books. At that time in the classroom, Shu also continued to read the book. The hero is very interested in Taoist meditation. Shu also remembered that in the distant past his father also taught to meditate. After a while from the speakers heard the sound of the end of the pair. Shu thought that in meditation is the most important thing to relax, but now realizes that this process is a little more complicated, and was going to ask the elder Luo, as soon as he finished reading the books. Suddenly, the hero was approached by a classmate who offered a snack, and promised to treat the hero. Shu was surprised by such a proposal, and warned that the guy with the hero dinner, because he has a beastly appetite. The guy was not against it, and the other students joined in, as they wanted to get to know their senior, and that the hero before that just sat and read books, because of which they did not have a chance to talk. Shu suggested that they all go together, after which he gathered the books. Suddenly, unknown people rushed into the auditorium, looking for the hero. There were quite a few of them, and they looked like bandits. Shu said that was his name. It turned out that one of the men was a third-year speed class student named Lee, and the hero didn't hesitate to ask what they wanted from him. The man said he had a great desire to fight the protagonist. The classmate reacted very violently to the words of the man. At that time he began to justify himself and talk about how they are not like that bastard who became disabled. The girl from the company of these guys said that the one-eyed man has nothing to do with them. Such a joke made everyone laugh. Because the guy really lost his egg, the man calmed down and decided to get straight to the point. He explained that soon there would be a ranking, and they would like to fight with the hero to sharpen their skills. Why Shu? Just he is one of the few examples of strong guys, and the experience of fighting with him will help the guys. Shu was surprised that among these people there are normal guys who can politely ask for a smartka. The man began to persuade the hero, saying that everything will be safe and official and that they are willing to pay for the fight. Shu decided to refuse such an offer, which surprised the man. The hero decided to explain to the guys why he refused, and the reason was unwillingness to waste time. The man offered the hero a capsule E rank, which seemed very interested in the guy. The man immediately picked up on the fact that the hero reacted to the capsule. They started talking and said that they would give 4 capsules for 4 fights, while the hero asked if the payment would change if he lost, and the guys promised that it would not. After a while, in the 4th training hall, the guys were inside and were amazed by the scale of the place. At that time the teacher asked the guys to be careful and not to overdo it in any way that there would be no injuries. The teacher separately addressed the hero, and asked that this time the fight would be without injuries. Shu asked the guys who would be the first opponent, and out of the crowd came a man who was burning with curiosity. The man told his friends to watch the battle carefully and ordered them to memorize everything so that they could summarize the results later. The teacher asked the boys if they were ready for the fight, and they simultaneously said they were. The hero's opponent said that he would start attacking, while Shu advised not to attack at full strength. The signal for the start of the battle sounded, and the man immediately rushed into the battle, saying that people of inhibitive type always attack at full strength. At that time, the girl said that they were studying the hero, and she knows that in a fight against him to minimize the distance. At that time, the hero's classmate shouted that he should not stand still. The hero's opponent began to tell about the battle between the hero and the bastard, in which the hero used cones, as well as he prepared for a powerful attack, and then with all his might struck, but his fist was imprinted into some invisible barrier. The man did not stop and twisted his body. It appeared that he intended to make another strike to break through the spiritual barrier through physical strength. The enemy attacked with all his might, expecting that now will break through the defense of the protagonist, and now the man's fist collided with the barrier, and it collapsed. It seemed that the attack was very effective and now Shu will get hit directly on the face. Everyone held their breath waiting for what will happen next, but here on the face of the hero was a calm smile. It seemed that everything went strictly according to his plan. It turned out that after the layer, which managed to break the enemy, there was another one seemingly even more powerful. The enemy hero could not get through the other layer. He could not understand how it happened that Shu had time to create 2 bearers and so that he could not notice it. Shu said that it was normal to use tactics to compensate for his weaknesses. At that time the man was shocked, because his arm was hurting. He asked what kind of shield it was, but it felt like hitting a rock. The teacher ran up to the guy and gave him instructions on how to heal his arm. It could even be a fracture. The man asked if he could continue the fight, saying that the arm was no big deal, but the teacher did the opposite and announced the winner of the battle, namely the protagonist. Shu asked who would be the next opponent, and then a guy came out of the crowd, ready to fight. After a very short period of time, the opponent was stunningly defeated, and the next opponent of the hero just as quickly fell under the influence of his power. Finally came the last fight, which ended as quickly as the previous ones. After a while, the man handed over the promised capsules, and they thanked the hero for helping them. The man asked if the boy would like to meet again. He agreed, but only on the condition that the payment would be the same. Shu was happy that he was able to get a lot of benefits, and about the guys he remained in a good impression. Suddenly the face of the hero skewed. It turns out he forgot to clean up the laboratory. A moment later he went there. Yes, so that he did not understand where the hero so hurried. After a while, the hero finished with cleaning the laboratory, and walked down the corridor, after which he heard the unpleasant smell of blood, which came from the office. Shu assumed that he again wants to fight someone. Because of his assumptions, the guy attacked the door with the words that whoever was behind it would die. After a while on the table was an empty plate of food. This food was eaten by Teacherin, who also praised the culinary skills of the guy. The hero admitted that as soon as he smelled blood he immediately thought that someone had broken into this place. The guy also asked where the girl had been all these days. The guy did not understand where she could get such serious wounds. Also, the guy could not imagine how the girl managed to regenerate the severed fingers. Anya knew that the hero would be interested, and then asked him to follow her. She intended to conduct some experiment. They were moving in a place unknown to the hero, and the girl said that if the guy did not slack off, he would have found this place long ago. On once again asked the guy if he was interested in how her fingers regenerated, and the hero's face froze in shock at what he saw in front of him. It was a girl who looked like On, but was imprisoned in a vial of some kind of liquid. Shu assumed that the teacher was researching clones for treatment, since she was able to regenerate her fingers through a similar procedure. On said that not all clones are used for treatment, some are used for research. Shu asked what is in the other capsules, and the girl said that this place is not only her clones, but also the clones of the protagonist. Shu was shocked by this information and asked where the girl managed to get his DNG, and she confessed that it happened on the day when the hero received a pass. The girl ordered the guy to unwrap the 10 to 50 pillows, and warned him that now they will start the experiment. The teacher decided to ask the hero something, or rather to warn him. She asked him not to be surprised when he saw 40 of his clones. Shu couldn't promise that and admitted that he was still a little creeped out by the whole thing. The girl began to give him a tour of the place, and after a while they saw a huge number of capsules that contained clones of the hero. The guy assumed that such technologies are not very popular, and he was right. The girl confirmed his guesses. Shu could not believe that the university had spent a huge amount of money on his cloning. Shu said that he intended to repay the university, even if these resources were used under the pretext of experimentation. At that time the girl interrupted the guy to ask if he was familiar with the term new genetic people. She said that their institute was able to achieve great research, but there were always people who were not able to accept the truth. The girl asked if the hero was ready to join their direction. He said that he had been close to the girl for a long time and of course he was going to continue to follow her. She was happy to hear such an answer and decided to give the guy some details. The girl showed the head of the queen bee, which has the ability to control a huge number of bees, and also said that it is very valuable and worth more than 20 million. They conducted experiments to introduce the bee gene into the human body, and in some cases, the body gained mental control, which was the ability of the queen bee to control tens of thousands of bees. There was also a chain of mental control that allowed remote control of worker bees, as well as the ability of mental whip, which was able to kill the enemy. The girl also said that with this method the chance of getting rejection is as much as 90%. Shu now realized why you need so many clones. At that time the girl asked the guy if he wanted to try. The girl also said that even though it is entering the clone all the pain that will be real, and will not be reduced in any way. Shu agreed and said that the free procedures are not important, and then the girl asked the hero to sit in the chair. The guy was inside the device, thanks to which it was possible to move his consciousness in the clone. At last the girl asked if the guy was ready, and he was completely ready, after which she moved the lever, and the process of receiving Lukovnoy energy began. One of the hero's clones fell out of the flask and ended up on the ground. The girl asked how the hero felt, and also asked if there was any discomfort. Shu said that he did not feel any discomfort and freely controls the body, as if native. The girl said that at the end of the room there was a pit and asked the hero to put his hand there to get an injection. Of course, if the guy did not chicken out, the girl kept a voice report saying that this was the first experiment. As soon as the guy put his hand in, a needle appeared that pierced his skin and began to inject the contents. The girl asked how the guy felt after the injection and he told her that he started to feel drowsy. A moment later the hero was on the ground, unable to move his limbs. The girl reported that the first experiment ended in brain death just 10 seconds after the experiment began. She asked what the body felt at the time of death. The hero said that all he felt was a headache, after which the girl proposed to start the second experiment. Shu plunged into the machine again, then appeared in the body of a new clone. At this rate, a huge number of clones were killed. It seemed that there was a whole army of clones of the hero. Shu asked if they would try again, and the girl said that this would be the last time. He immersed himself in the device again. At that time the girl could not understand why the experiment did not work, but suddenly heard the voice of the hero, and then immediately thought that the experiment was finally successful.